Melissa.
And I'm Eric, and you are watching Mission 360.
Mission 360 comes to you from the Office of Adventist Mission at the Seventh-day Adventist Church World Headquarters. Every week, we focus on mission stories and challenges all around us.
Today's program is a part of a mini-series about world religions. Think of it as sort of a World Religion 101. Today we will be talking about Buddhism, and we hope you'll enjoy taking this journey with us as we explore the life and faith of this religion. Buddhism is a religion about 400 million people around the world. The word comes from Buddhai, to awaken. Buddhism began about 2,500 years ago with Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha, was himself awakened or enlightened.
To the Buddhist believer, Buddhism explains life's purpose. It explains apparent injustice and inequality around the world, and it provides a code of practice or way of life that they believe leads to true happiness. Let's travel to Cambodia and learn more about the Buddhist religion.
Buddhism, enlightenment and compassion. Centered on the quest to alleviate suffering through the relinquishing of desire and the practice of the Eightfold Path, Buddhism has fascinated and infiltrated, in one form or another, most Asian societies. Zen Buddhism, most recently embraced in the West, grew in Japan, along with its native religion, Shintoism. A curious phenomenon is that Buddhism nearly disappeared from the land where it was born, India. There are today some 400 million Buddhists, but this figure is misleading since it does not take into consideration the mixture of Buddhist philosophy and practice in Asia in particular. Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism are inextricably connected in Chinese worldviews.
I'm here in Siem Reap, Cambodia, in front of one of the thousands of beautiful Buddhist temples in this region. And I'm here with Greg Whitsett, the director of the Center for East Asian Religions and Traditions. And we're going to talk for a few minutes about understanding Buddhism. Hi, Greg. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I'd like to just ask you, how did Buddhism start and spread?
Well, Buddhism started with the Buddha, for which it's named. Buddha was born as Siddhartha Gautama in 643 BC in northern India. So this is about the time of Daniel in the Bible. So he was born, and until the age of about 29, he was very protected by his father in the palace there that he lived in as a prince in that kingdom. And but he snuck out once to go out and look and wanted to see the world outside. And when he went out, he saw four things. He saw a sick man. Then he saw an old, aging man. Then he saw a corpse. And the fourth thing he saw was an ascetic, which gave him a hint that maybe there was some answer to the cause of this kind of suffering, which he had never witnessed before in his short life. So he actually left home. And for 6 years, he tried to be an ascetic like he had seen. And he came to the point of near death. And as he was in this point of half starvation, he realized, this isn't the answer, this isn't working. So he sat down under a Bodhi tree and he told himself, I'm going to meditate here and figure this out. And I'm not going to get up from this meditation until I have the answers. And after a few days, he had an enlightening experience where he saw that that life as we know it, this experience is impermanent, it's suffering. And that the cause of it is desire, is cravings. And from that, he had some ideas about how this should be taught and shared with other people. And so he had a group of people who followed him. They were monks, to follow him and to learn from him and to share his teaching. But it all started on the concept of suffering and what to do with this great problem.
Now, it spread from there. How did it spread? Did you have disciples? Exactly how did it spread?
Yeah, it's said that he had about 60 disciples, and they went out teaching. And towards the end of Buddha's life, he lived another 45 years, so he was about 80 when he died. But these things shortly after, they were shared orally, but then were later recorded. And from northern India, Buddhism spread throughout to the south, down to Sri Lanka, to the southeast, across Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and then also to the north and east, across China, Korea, and Japan.
And today, of course, we see its impact in the West.
That's right, Rick. We have it. Many people find attractive things to Buddhism, such as trying to live at peace with the world around them and learning how to meditate. And so we have another type of Buddhism, which is called Neo-Buddhism.
So we see that Buddhism isn't monolithic. It has different strands.
Yeah.
Describe just briefly these three strands.
Okay. As it started, it moved kind of in the southeast mainland Asia. This part of Asia was Theravada Buddhism. It was more conservative, using less scriptures in that area. But moving into China, it was a Mahayana Buddhism, and a little bit later into Tibet, they have a Tibetan Buddhism. And like I said before, it also is spreading today around the world. A lot of Westerners finding Buddhism attractive and call this Neo-Buddhism.
Could you give us a couple of the core teachings of what a Buddhist would believe?
Well, the Buddhists have what they call the triple gem. There's basically three things that they need to pledge allegiance to respect and to serve. The first is Buddha himself and his teachings of the way. The second is the teachings themselves, the Dharma. And third would be the community of faithful, the monks, which is the Sangha.
Okay. And there are a lot of other teachings, of course. One that's familiar in the West is the reincarnation issue. Are there some of these core teachings that we could understand a little bit?
Yeah, as part of the package is a worldview of how life works and all of these things. And while Buddha didn't answer all of these questions, he said actually that it's like if you're in a hospital or if you're sick, all you would want is to be treated for your sickness. You're not worried so much about where did that medicine come from and where did this person get their training. You're just interested in getting the help. And so he didn't spend a lot of time on origins and on the supernatural world and these things. But actually, the common people are very interested in these things as well, how to deal with all of these challenges. So actually what you see in daily practice is the monks will, at least here in Southeast Asia, the monks will come out and collect alms in the morning. And this almsgiving is both for themselves to earn merit, but also to benefit. They'll pour some water on the street there as the monks are chanting their blessing. And this is specifically as a blessing for their ancestors who have passed away. And the idea is that there's a cycle of life. A person is born, they live their life, they do good deeds and bad deeds, and all of these things affect them. They believe in a karma, that these things affect the quality of their life. And when they pass away, that they are then going to be reborn into a new life, or at least their karmic value. So their next life can be affected by their deeds or bad deeds, in this life. And so the goal for a Buddhist is really to improve their station in life, and to also help their ancestors who passed away by earning merit for them to improve their station as they're reborn.
There's quite a bit of merit issues involved. And you want to touch on that at all?
Yeah, the idea is, of course, that if you're doing something that's compassionate, that's loving to someone else, that's serving the world, the environment, these are things that earn good merit. But if you're involved in a self-focused lifestyle, where you're just grasping after the things of this world, then this is going to decrease your merit, and it certainly will play out in your future life.
Thank you for that sketch of Buddhism and how it's practiced in everyday life, Greg.
You're welcome, yes.
From Cambodia, we will now travel to China. Let's make a stop there before we continue learning about Buddhism.
뭐 이루 말할 수 없죠. 아주 비참합니다.
In the country of China, the situation of the lepers has become a great tragedy.
근데 전 세계에서 제일 비참해요.
There are 600 colonies and more than 250,000 lepers.
感到心灵上有一些震撼，还有一些。
The first time I saw the lepers and I looked upon their faces, I felt a great pain inside my heart. But I felt called to serve them because they are the sons and daughters of God. These people were abandoned by society, and they feel that they don't belong. Our goal is to help them feel special, that they are loved, but we also want them to know that Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice for them, that they are redeemed, and there is a kingdom for them.
I went to China in 2006 and saw the situation with the lepers and found out that not one Adventist was working to help them. I wanted to do something to help. We are involved with 18 projects, and we have more than 70 volunteers. We live among the people in the colony, we eat with them, we serve them.
Jesus Christ served the people. He provided for their needs. That is what we are trying to do here. We want to help these people and to provide for their needs, just like Jesus did.
So far, 327 lepers have been baptized. My goal is to train these new converts to serve and help other lepers.
The first time we touch the wounds of the lepers, it helps them to feel that someone cares about them. Through this, we are showing the love of Jesus to them. We are earning their trust.
What a beautiful story of compassion and love for others. After the break, we'll visit with Rick McEdward and Greg Whitsitt, who will join us here in the studio to share ways we can promote friendship and understanding with Buddhists. You may just be surprised at how we can relate to one another. All this after a short break.
Inspire your children to walk in Jesus' steps. Introduce them to young frontline missionaries who take a bold stand for the truth. Your little ones will learn from the true stories of children like them. They'll encounter real challenges and creative solutions to reaching friends for the kingdom. To receive your free copy of Mission Stories for Kids, call us today or visit our website.
Welcome back. Today our program is focusing on Buddhism. We've learned a little bit about Buddhism and its main beliefs. Now let's continue our class right here in the studio to find out if there is a common ground between Buddhists and Christians. Let's talk to our expert guests.
Well, Greg and Rick, it's nice to have you back from Cambodia. and we're going to talk some more about Buddhism. What I'd like to learn more about is, are there any similarities between Christianity and Buddhism, or is it just totally different?
Well, you know, there are differences, but I think we can easily talk with a Buddhist friend or neighbor in the similarities we have. You know, start with the fact that we're people. But beyond that, there's the need for peace in life, which is a strong Buddhist tenet. The emphasis on a healthy lifestyle with respect for life and the vegetarianism. Some of these issues are strong bridges.
What else, Greg?
Well, Buddhism is steeped in the story of one man's troubling with how we deal with suffering. You know, suffering is real in the world, and certainly whether you look at the story of Job or the original story, the fall of Adam and Eve, the human problem is how do we deal with suffering? And so we can very much relate with the focus of Buddhism is to find release from that. And so that's really the starting place. And we all experience that in day to day, don't we? So it's not just a part of our universal story of the human race, but also each of us individually.
Now, Greg, we see in the West that there's a growing interest among people who we thought were secular in Eastern religions. I mean, we see conversions to Buddhism. What is it that is attracting people that mainstream Christianity doesn't seem to be?
You know, Buddhism is very much an individual thing of an experience, wanting an experience that connects somehow internally. Some people say that Buddhism is becoming one of the fastest growing religions in the world. In England, it's been growing in the prisons. They have Buddha groves in the prisons. Why? Because they're dealing with how to deal with being pent up in a prison cell, and they find that the meditation, that practice, is to find somehow some kind of release in that. And so dealing with the interconnectedness of everything is connected to everything else, and how that all fits. And of course, one of the most popular lines of Buddhism is focused on showing universal compassion and the nonviolence that entails. And in the world today, we have so much violence and so much striving after gain, and people get disillusioned with that. You know, there's got to be something more.
But it would seem to me that compassion and non-violence and the interconnectedness of things and experience, they should be part of our Adventism, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But maybe we've been shown a little wanting in some of that.
You know, I really think that as Seventh-day Adventist Christians, we step into the life of a Buddhist friend. The first step is just to become friends and listen, learn, and soon we'll find that we do have commonality. And voice where those things are in common. You know, we all suffer. Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you don't suffer. Talk about that, but then you can start to share through personal testimony how we deal with suffering and what Jesus Christ offers, and that he actually comes into our life and brings something there. And the picture of Jesus weeping at Lazarus' tomb is, to me, showing that God is a victim with us. We're in this together, but he has a solution. And then inviting people to experience that. Experience is critical for Buddhists. That's the number one. They want to experience faith. So let's not come at them with just some teachings, some theories. Let's actually come to them with our own lives and share that with them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mentioned that we're all people, but there's a lot to that because families, having children, health concerns, a lot of Buddhists have very pragmatic concerns for daily life, experiential issues. But those pragmatic concerns come up in everybody's lives, and so there's a need for a solution sometimes. Sometimes it may be sharing with or praying for. And I think there's no hindrance to saying to a Buddhist friend, can I pray for you? Can we share a prayer to God together? And that experience may touch some chord in their heart.
Sure. Yeah. Now, Greg, you've lived now for several years in Southeast Asia, and you've had Buddhist neighbours, Buddhist people working with you. Can you share an experience of how you've made friendships?
Working overseas, of course, a big part of what we are trying to do is develop methods and develop materials that we can share. And I remember working, quite intensely to meet a deadline to present some materials to a group we were working with and some lessons that we're going to use for sharing with Buddhists. And as we're working on that, we kept getting interrupted by a neighbor. We all have neighbors that can sometimes interrupt our lives, phone calls or whatever, We had that experience. And my wife, bless her heart, she'd go and spend time and they'd talk and have a nice discussion. And I'm waiting. My wife was part of that process of developing those things we were working on. And this just happened time and again. And I got to the point where I said, Amy, please, we need to focus here and not take the time right now to spend with our neighbor. We have some mission work to do. Well, it's kind of ironic, but she would not just, listen, but she would enter into further discussion and talk with this lady. And what was happening is God was actually touching her while I was in a different world. And I remember it came around the New Year with the Buddhist festival, and it's a time for blessing those who've touched your life in a powerful way. She came over to our house and she said, more than anyone else in the world, you guys have really touched my life. And we're like, wow, we're just sharing life with her. I mean, my wife better than I. What have we done? But she then blessed us. She gave us a beautiful blessing, wanting us to have health and peace and our kids to grow up well and all of this. And then she said, okay, now I'd like you to bless me. And so we took the fragrant water that you use in the blessing to pour on the back of the person. And my wife began to bless her and say, Lord, show her that you are real. Give her the job she's needing. Bring her husband back to her. Help them have a whole family again. And I followed my wife's example, Okay, we can do this. And we were gone a couple of weeks. We came back. And she was so excited. As soon as we came in, she said, oh, I got to tell you a story. And we said, what happened? And she said, God is real. Because God brought my husband back, and I now have a job. I haven't had a job for 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
And I realized, God just wants an opportunity for us to spend time with people, to touch them and invite them to experience His goodness.
Fantastic. Well, we've run out of time again, but thanks for the introduction and for the suggestions. And for more information, Rick, about Buddhism and how we can relate to Buddhists, where should we go?
AdventistMission.org is the best place for
Fantastic.
resources.
Okay, thank you again. God bless.
Thanks.
I hope you have learned a lot from our guests. They are a special part of our study centers, working to build bridges of understanding and friendship with people from major world religions.
These study centers learn, research, and experiment so we can do a better job of communicating what we as Christians believe with people from profoundly different worldviews. They help us understand the beliefs and cultures of other world religions, and so we can be better prepared to relate to people of non-Christian affiliations.
For help in connecting more effectively with people from other worldviews, the study centers are here to help. You can contact them by visiting our websites at AdventistMission.org. Next, a touching miracle story.
Here in the heart of China, here in the heart of this city, is a small Seventh-day Adventist church. Just 10 years ago, there was no Adventist church. There were no Seventh-day Adventists. That's when Mrs. Fawn came to this city as a church planter to start a new group of believers. Mrs. Fawn tells how she was looking for a place to stay when she first came to the city. Someone sent her to Popo Dao. Popo, or Grandma Dao, had a room that Mrs. Fawn could rent. Before long, Mrs. Fawn had a small group studying the Bible, and Popo Dao was one of them. As they studied, she gave her heart to Jesus and joined the fledgling church. She let them build a small church on her family's property, but her husband wasn't ready to sign over the land. Mrs. Fawn tells how one day she was walking down the street when she saw that there had been an accident. When she got closer, she saw Popo Dao lying on the street in a pool of blood. They rushed her to the hospital, where the doctors said she wasn't going to make it through the night. So the church members held an all-night prayer vigil for Popo Dao. They cared about Popo Dao, but they also knew that if anything happened to her, they might lose their church. Popo Dao got well, and when she did, she and her husband signed over the land to the church. Today, Popo Dao is 79 and still worshiping in the church she helped build. And Sister Fawn, she went on to plant other churches in other areas. If you would like to learn more about how you can help plant new churches in unentered areas, visit globalmission.org.
Mission 360 is not over yet. We'll be back right after this break.
Inspire your children to walk in Jesus' steps. Introduce them to young frontline missionaries who take a bold stand for the truth. Your little ones will learn from the true stories of children like them. They'll encounter real challenges and creative solutions to reaching friends for the kingdom. To receive your free copy of Mission Stories for Kids, call us today or visit our website.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed Buddhism 101. The ideas shared here encourage mission with a holistic, up-close and personal approach.
Remember to connect with people, treat them with love and care. We're on this planet together. Let's take the time to make a difference.
And please remember to pray for the hundreds of Seventh-day Adventist missionaries who have left the comfort of their homes to share hope in Jesus Christ. If you want to learn more about Adventist mission all around the world, visit our website at adventistmission.org. There's a world of mission information right there. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope you can join us next time right here on Mission 360.